And it's perfect. Matty knew exactly what he was doing when he put Hootie and the Blowfish in there for Alyssa Orange, because she knows exactly what it's like for the Dolphins to make her cry. Don't you, Alyssa? You
the
know
Dolphins
what that
make
all
me
about.
cry every season. Every season, my whole life. That's the one thing me and Darius Rucker got in common.
Yeah. Yeah, not a country music fan, I guess, then too much, huh?
Oh, no, I am, but, Yeah,
well,
I feel like that's the biggest thing we have in common. There you go.
You've
Not
got
the
sports.
only
You got sports fandom in common. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Baseball, College World Series. This is awfully exciting, and I'm reminded too. Another program that might have made you cry a few times, Florida State, got there so many times, so close to national championships with Mike Martin as the head coach. And now Dave Van Horn is making his 9th trip to the College World Series, which leads all active head coaches in baseball still looking for that first. Is this the one? That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I mean, and I think sometimes, Phil, you realize right now that you saw it with Arkansas last year, you saw it with Tennessee this year. It's not always the most talented team, consistent team all year long that's going to win. We saw that with Mississippi State. You saw it with Coastal Carolina getting hot at the right time and winning a couple of years ago. Man, I don't think any of us would have said this is the team that's going to win the first one for Dave, but you look at the field right now and the way they've been playing for the next 2 weeks, and this might be the team that wins the first one for Dave.
Well, and I asked him a question before Monday's game or before Sunday's game that I think, and the way he answered this about how the roles have changed for some of the pitchers now. He doesn't try to fit guys into, square peg round hole. He's going to let the player, the way that they play when they're given the opportunity, dictate the way that they're used. And just to think that the guy who was your game 2 starting pitcher all year long is now closing games for you, and the last pitcher, the 20th guy to appear on the mound for you this year, who no one even knew was on the team really in some cases, is your second game starter. I mean, this is how teams morph throughout a season. It was really incredible to watch.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, and you got to tip your cap to Will McIntyre. And we've heard the story of him going to Dave and saying he wants an opportunity and then taking that opportunity and running with it. And then now we see, and we heard from Dave before after that game in Stillwater, that Hagen Smith, they were looking at him to be a closer. But then Peyton Paulette got hurt. And so now we maybe are seeing Hagen Smith in his natural setting and what makes him feel more comfortable. And then you've got a guy like Will McIntyre who, it's a pretty incredible story. It's not a Kevin Kopf-esque story, but it's similar to a guy that kind of came out of nowhere and is doing really good things for the Razorbacks. But you also have to tip your cap to Matt Hobbs and that pitching staff and Dave Van Horn for letting guys evolve. Sometimes that's hard for a coach to sit back and realize, like, okay, let's try something different halfway through the middle of the season, and that's why they've been successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Alyssa, I want to go back to the North Carolina series before we move on to what's going to happen in Omaha. And one of the best things, we talk about it every year, a team that can win in Omaha is a team that can win multiple different fashions of ways. We saw Arkansas win high-scoring run games in Stillwater, and then small scoring runs in Chapel Hill. And when it got to Sunday and North Carolina took the lead in the 9th, for you, was there any worried, or did you think that, oh no, this is where it happens again? Because I personally, just from watching this team over the last few weeks, I knew they had it. Before Jalen Battles went up to the plate in the bottom of the 9th, it just felt like this team had it. And that's something you couldn't say 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think that because I was in Stillwater and watched all those games unfolded, that no, I wasn't concerned that they could possibly come back and win. But I think that I did have a gut feeling that if they didn't win that game 3 made me really, really nervous. You've handed some momentum to North Carolina. They had done it before and won back-to-back games to get to the Super Regionals. And so I felt like there was no problem with them coming back and winning that game, but I also felt like they had to win that game or I didn't feel good about Sunday's game or Monday's game.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Now, on to what we're going to see in Omaha. Obviously, this is a team that you have faced, and that's kind of the weird thing about that side of the bracket, right? For Arkansas, the first two games are going to be against an opponent that they've seen before. What's the main difference, do you think, in this team from, I mean, obviously you could just point at a lot of things, but just, is there one thing that just makes you so much more confident in this team today than when you saw Stanford back in March and you ultimately, got shut out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, experience. I think this team has just played a little more together. I think they've figured out where they are the strongest. Phil just asked about pitching. Like, the pitching has evolved. I don't see them getting shut out from this Stanford team again, and we've watched this Stanford team evolve as well. And so you're two very different teams at this point in the season than you were back when you were playing each other in Round Rock in March. And so you just have to kind of lean on more of Arkansas is a better team than they were. Stanford's a different team than they were, and they're better maybe offensively, but they might have some other flaws. But you just got to really rely and put your trust in that this Arkansas team is playing its best baseball right now, and I doubt we're going to see what we saw with the errors and some issues pitching that we saw back when they played again in Round Rock.
Let me start it this way. Familiarity breeds contempt, right? Not when we're doing a show together or having the same guest on every week, because that's not how we feel about you, Alyssa. But for Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn. Yeah. It's not like you got that content for Stanford. I think it's a good thing you faced them. But, man, to have two teams from your own division on the same side of the bracket, and then, like, the team that probably is favored on the other side would be A&M. It's just,
which is crazy.
I mean, I love like exotic matchups, like when Arkansas played Oregon State and all that. But I love the familiarity of this bracket.
Oh yeah, well I love it too because it's exciting and it brings out competitive baseball. And before the season even started, we were going through the schedule and seeing which series we were most excited for. And Ole Miss is always going to be my answer because it's always so fun when Arkansas and Ole Miss get together on the baseball diamond, and it's always intense and it's exciting, and it's Dave Van Horn and Mike Bianco just kind of chess matching back and forth, and it's always fun, and so I enjoy that. And then Auburn has always been an interesting game, and the way that those games ended this year with Kendall Diggs and home runs, and that was fun. And then if they do end up playing A&M, maybe getting some revenge back from that series in College Station. But, it's fun because you've got Arkansas fans who are going to be, heckling Tim Elko there at first base, and you're just familiar with these players, and it's a little more exciting than you're playing a team like maybe Virginia or a team in Oregon State that you don't really know much about.
Let me close on this thought here. Let me, and I'll ask you this too, Drew, because we didn't really even have a chance to talk about it very much. Is it even worth mentioning Tennessee and even talking about their loss and their antics and all of that stuff, because they're not even a story moving forward for the rest of the season? Like, Tennessee baseball is no longer a thing in 2022. They wanted to be the topic. That's why they were acting the way they did. They want to be heard. They want to hear people talking about them and saying negative things. That's what they put the black hat on. Is it even worth talking about them?
I think if you're an Arkansas fan, no. And I think if you're an Arkansas fan, you just go back to last year and you realize that nothing is guaranteed, and Tennessee is going to learn a hard lesson, the same lesson that Arkansas learned a year ago, and that just because you're the number one most dominant team and you're setting all these records and you're winning the SEC by 6 games, and that does not matter. It does not matter right now, just like your team doesn't matter right now because you're not playing baseball anymore. And I'll throw this out there. The only topic and the only things that Tony Vitello, that he might be in the news for, is there's a coaching job that's currently open down south in the capital of Florida. And so maybe we're talking about Tony Vitello. But that's the only time I want to hear Tony Vitello's name.
Well, let me ask you about that, Alyssa, because, I mean, it is your alma mater, Florida State, and what do you want him? I mean, it seems like there's been so much lack of control.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Really?
Put Tony and Garnet in gold. Yes, I want Tony to come back to Arkansas, but if he's not going to, then I'd love for him to. I think he's still a good coach.
The antics and everything else don't rub you wrong?
Nope. Bring it on. Come on with it.
All right.
It's like you love it when they're. Come on. Come on, Tony.
I don't see. I felt like it would probably hurt his chances, but I'm probably in the minority. Last thing for me though, Alyssa, off of the field in Omaha, obviously one of the big important things to do and to win is the Jell-O shot challenge. Last time Arkansas got, I think, to 860 something.
Yes.
Now
that was just 2 games. They only played 2 games. And I don't know if they can beat Mississippi State last year, who had like 2,600. But does Arkansas get to at least like the 1,500 mark, you think, this week at Rocco's? That sounds like a challenge for Drew.
Hands down. Let's do it. Let's go. I'll contribute a couple.
I was about to ask, how many is Alyssa Orange throwing in?
Maybe a couple.
Yeah, Alyssa's like recording for all of the TV hits and YouTube hits and social media hits like 24 hours a day. She's got no time to have fun if she's in Omaha. Come on.
No.
You TV people work too much. I don't understand why you do it.
No, they really do.
I know they do. They really do. That's why I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no,
I chose radio because I have to work.
Not a pity party or anything like that, Alyssa, but like, so I'll do a show and I'll do the games. Like you're working morning, noon, and night when you're in Omaha at TV, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're over here asking me, who wants to do morning hit and live at 10? And I'm like, and when do I sleep? Let me know. Never. You never sleep. Yeah, and then you come on our show and maybe you do a nap for 10 minutes while you talk with us. I don't know.
Owners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.